Hi, it's Jeanette here from my home studio, Far Forest Ceramics in the UK, and I'm sharing a start to finish video with you. A little bit different this time. I'm making something for my sister-in-law on her 60th birthday, and I've already shown this in a kiln opening that I've actually posted, but I never got round to actually editing all the various footage of me making it start to finish. So I'm using an Airpen and I'm writing with it, and also using for the first time, seeing if I can particularly paint with underglazes with it. But I'm also taking a birthday card. You know, these birthday cards that have got lots of cutouts on them, and it's beautiful. I always keep things and think I'll use them one day. Well, I got a sentimental card and I want to use this birthday card to see if I could use it like as relief to make a special trinket tray. So you'll get two kiln openings in this as well, the glaze kiln opening and then also a gold-lustre opening. So hopefully you enjoy it, and I know Joe absolutely loved the piece when I gave it to her.
When I started this project, I'll be honest, I actually didn't have much of a plan of how I was going to use it, but I just knew I wanted to use this card. So my first thought process was roller it into the clay and it would give me some texture. I did try that, but it didn't give me enough texture. So then I thought, okay, if I actually cut it out, I could use it then as a relief for me painting the background. So that was where my brain went. Started off by painting on just some Mako fundamental underglaze. But what I soon started to think, it looked a little bit too flat. Would I see brush marks on it? So after me putting the first base coat down of this soft Wedgwood blue, I then decided to change from a brush and progress to a sponge. And just using it fairly dry, started stippling over the surface. Now, I did like this effect, but it still looked a bit patchy, so I just kept going with a much drier sponge until it seemed quite consistent. The reveal was the best bit. However, I'm thinking, I don't really know what goes where. It doesn't look like anything at the moment, but okay, we'll have to come back to that. So I kept the card for future reference. I decided to just curl the sides up just to make it into a trinket tray. It was a little bit wobbly, so just by rubbing it against a ruler, it created a much sharper edge to it, and I was able to smooth down those edges after it had gone leather hard. I've not actually painted on leather hard clay before, only ever bisque, so this was a new experience, and I had to be careful not to actually rest my hand on the actual plaque as I was painting because I thought it could snap it in half. So it's very strange to paint onto leather hard clay because it absorbs so quickly, but it was quite nice. So I've used a couple of tones of green. I had to keep referring back to the original card to try and work out what actually every gap was supposed to be. So it was quite hard to do. So I decided it was time to move on to the Airpen. So I'm using two underglazes here. There was actually a spice brown and also a much darker brown, browny black that I decided to use. And I decided to try and do some very faint lines to start off with. Now, I felt very wobbly. I was pleased I didn't get too many blockages, which I was surprised about, but it was something that I needed to keep practicing. It didn't come easy, but the more I used it, the more it felt more comfortable. And then it became a little bit more intuitive. So I found it better when I didn't actually concentrate too much what I was doing with my finger, with the pressure. And it is just time to get used to using it. I built up all of the stems and the stalks with this dark brown. I'm still again having to refer to the card so many times because I really can't work out a lot of the time what these holes are for. I then moved on to the spice brown, which I decided to do onto some petals, like marigold petals. I like that. It was more like flooding. It was a thicker nozzle I had on this one. And again, it was something that with practice, it just started to become a little bit more intuitive. I couldn't really get fine points with what I was doing here because it was flooding a little bit too much. So I just then went afterwards and I dragged out each of the tips to sharpen it all up a little bit. And that seemed to I quite like the relief. It was a little bit more three-dimensional as well, and nice and thick, so I shouldn't have to do more than the one coat. I completed this on the rest of those similar shaped flowers and then decided to go a little bit more vibrant. So these were like berries from what I could see on the original card. So I chose a crimson colour and added the berries, which I'm going to highlight afterwards with a different colour as well, just to bring out the texture a little bit more. I started to get carried away, enjoying it. Time was going past. I didn't really know where time went. I was just enjoying painting, but with an airpen. I had the cartridges with different colours in, so if I've forgotten something, I could easily flip the cartridge and change it back to another colour. And it was great fun, much easier than I thought. And at the end, I was far more comfortable using the airpen. I wished I'd gone back and actually done some of my finer lines after I'd just been using it a lot longer, because it did feel a lot more comfortable. You can see here I'm actually just adding some lighter colour with a brush into some of the flowers to give a bit more three-dimensional effect. Added some more berries, but this time in a lighter shade of pink. I like how it's coming together. I don't know what it's going to be like when it's fired. I don't know how Underglaze fires on leather hard clay very much, but this has been brilliant practice for me with the airpen, and I wish I'd done this sooner, to be honest, because it made me feel far more confident using it and second nature. Now, I wanted to put an inscription on the front, but it seemed a bit scary to actually write in this big open space. So what I'm using here, it's actually food colouring, which will burn off in the firing. And I've got a marker pen that you can fill with your own liquid, whatever you would like to put in there. And it's got different size nibs on it. If you're interested in getting one of these, they're off Amazon. I'll share my Amazon storefront in the description. Very inexpensive. So after I did it with the food colouring, I did feel it needed spacing out a little bit more. So as I'm now actually using the airpen to write, now I've got more confident with it, I actually ignore my guidelines with the food colouring, you'll see slightly, and start to spread it out a little bit. It's more the second two words that I decided to spread out a little bit more. So it helped by first drawing it on with the food colouring, because you don't get two shots at this, do you? You've got to do it right the first time, the minute you put the underglaze on. So this is for my sister-in-law Joanne, and I actually met Jo before I met her brother. Jo and I met and we got to know each other, and I met her brother within a couple of hours of me actually meeting Jo for the very first time. Fast track, 2 years later, Mark and I got married, and we are actually celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary this year. So I have an awful lot to thank Jo for, and she's been a very special friend in my life, and I treasure her friendship dearly. I love her to bits. So I wanted to write a special verse for her on the back. So I drafted up my own verse. I'm just using pencil to give me some guidelines. It's quite a long verse. If you would follow my videos, you know I talk a lot. I write a lot as well. So this is more like an essay, but I really wanted to have a go at trying to write with the airpen. So after drawing me some guidelines, which I know are going to burn off in the firing, I put some black underglaze into the pen with a fairly fine nib and just started writing as if I was writing in a card. I don't know why, but it felt like the nib it didn't clog up, but it felt like it needed to be cleaned. So when you write, you normally rest your nib of your pen on your paper. So I was naturally resting the nib of the airpen on the leather hard clay as I was writing. And I think this was almost picking up a little bit of the dry clay as I was writing. So I felt like I needed to just clean off the nib every now and again. It didn't actually clog up, it was just felt fuzzy on the outside, and then that seemed to catch on the underglaze, which made some letters a little bit thicker. When I look at this back after I'd finished it all, I do need to improve on my writing. I used to be a cake decorator. That was my first qualification when I was in my early 20s. So I'm used to writing with a piping bag. But this is different. An airpen is different. And it's, you'll see I start to get a little bit thicker, not quite as symmetrical, but it's just me writing. So I am going to speed this up because you don't want to watch me writing the whole thing. But I've got to say, it's so therapeutic to use the Airpen. You actually then want to use the Airpen on everything, which less is more sometimes. I have to keep telling myself, but I do forget. But it was great fun. And I was curious to see how did this underglaze survive through obviously a bisque and a glaze firing, because it's going to be sitting on the base. Is it going to get scratched? Is it going to break off? Yeah, time will tell. Time will tell. But I had to give it a go, and there's a lot of time, love and effort gone into this piece, and I just hope it survives, so I've got something to give to Joe. Joe would appreciate whatever I was able to do, but I just hope it actually turns out as I'm hoping. So yeah, I've nearly finished. I'm running out of space, and I'm all the time watching what I want to write and how much space I've got left, and am I going to fit it all on, or am I going to end up with loads of room at the bottom and no more words to fill it with? But I was quite pleased. It's spaced out just nicely, and I've got something to fit on right at the bottom. So this now goes through a bisque firing, and then I added clear gloss before I did a kiln opening.
Hi, it's Jeanette from my home studio in the UK, Far Forest Ceramics. I have a small kiln opening. I'm using Bella, which is usually what I use for my bisque because she's only a 43 litre kiln. And I opened Blaze, my bigger kiln, yesterday, and there were a few pieces in there I wasn't happy with, so I wanted to reglaze them. There was another piece in particular which is for my sister-in-law, a birthday present, a plaque that I'd hand painted and wrote all on the back of it, and I didn't like the finish on the top. The stoneware clear just was not a very nice smooth surface because I'd had a problem with the underglaze all crinkling up after the bisque. So I was pleased that it had settled the underglaze down, but I didn't like the finish, so I've reglazed that. What I'm concerned about is under this shelf, because this is Joanne's and we're going to see her day after tomorrow. So please, please, please not have wrecked or broke. Okay, it's looking better. Okay, it's looking better. Oh, yes. Oh, it's in one piece. It's not cracked. It's better than it was. It's still not perfect, but it's better than it was. I don't know if you can see, if I move it, you can see the texture is a little bit bubbly. Well, not bubbly. It's much better now, but this was the problem that I'd had before, and now at least it's got a glossy covering. So I've done this actually with a birthday card that I pressed into the clay. Then I've used paintwork with brushes and Airpen work to paint this, and then I use my Airpen to write for the first time on the back. So I've written her a message from me on the back, which I love that. Now what I'm thinking is, or what my plan was, to put just on that edge some gold lustre. So I thought that could set off the orange quite nicely. So while it's warm, I might do that now, pop that back in, and just see if I can get a gold lustre on the edge. Hopefully it survived. I'm pleased. That's literally what this firing was about. I'm pleased. So I'm going to try now and do that gold lustre and get Joanne's piece back in the kiln, because I need to be wrapping it all up with her mugs and her bowls to take for when we see her. It's her 60th birthday today, and we're seeing her in a couple of days for a family get together. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Hi, Jeanette from the UK, Far Forest Ceramics here, with the shortest kiln opening ever. I've only got 3 pieces in here, but it is a lustre firing, and it's finishing off a piece for my sister-in-law. So I'd like to share it with you. I've only done 1 lustre firing about 2 years ago, so it's a long time since I've done a lustre firing. I might do a little bit more if this works out. If this doesn't work out, I won't be doing a little bit more. So let me see. Oh, it's glittering. Oh, and the important one hasn't cracked. Oh, This is the plaque I've done for my sister-in-law. It's her 60th birthday. And I've just added, I don't know if it's picking up on the camera, I've just added some gold on the edge, so it's just picking it up slightly. And I had a problem with this underglaze and this texture, so it's not, you can see it's not super smooth, so I'm not happy with that, but I know Joanne will love this. I've also done the little heart in the middle on gold. I like that, but this is why I wanted this to survive, because I've done her, I wrote a message for her on the back, which I know she'll love that. We're both very sentimental. I've known her since 1983. It's actually how I met my husband, through Jo, my sister-in-law. I know she's going to be thrilled with that. She is going to be thrilled with that. We're just both a bit soppy and sentimental. But yeah, so thank you for joining me, and short and sweet, but love my gold lustre firing.